Aloha! Welcome to my presentation regarding free will in the age of algorithms, rethinking responsibility in an AI-driven world. In a world increasingly shaped by algorithms and artificial intelligence, a pressing question emerges. Are we still truly free to make our own choices? From what we watch on Netflix to the news we read on our social media feeds, AI recommendation systems shape and filter our experiences with remarkable precision. This video explores the implications of AI-powered recommendation systems on human autonomy and moral responsibility, interrogating whether we can still be held accountable for choices made under algorithmic influence. We'll examine these questions through the lens of four major philosophical perspectives on free will and consider the real-world implications for how we think, act, and govern ourselves in an AI-driven society. AI recommendation engines are among the most influential technologies of the 21st century. Built on machine learning models trained on vast data sets, these systems predict what you'll like before you even know you want it. The Netflix queue, YouTube autoplay, TikTok's For You page, Spotify Discover Weekly, each is an example of how content is tailored specifically to you. But the influence extends far beyond entertainment. Political campaigns use recommendation algorithms to target voters with emotionally charged messages. Online stores customize product suggestions to maximize spending. Even job seekers are filtered through algorithms that determine who is worthy of a second glance. This isn't just persuasion, it's behavioral shaping. And while it might seem harmless when you're discovering a new indie band or binge-worthy series, the implications are more serious when it comes to voting, mental health, and radicalization. These tools can reinforce biases, narrow our perspectives, and nudge us into choices we might not have otherwise made. It's important to recognize that this phenomenon is far from new. Long before the rise of AI, people have been influenced, if not outright controlled, by various forces. In authoritarian or totalitarian regimes, individuals are systematically denied access to alternative sources of information, limiting their ability to think freely. In capitalist societies, consumer behavior is heavily shaped by relentless advertising and the culture of consumption. Even before the advent of AI, corporations were leveraging massive amounts of data to influence consumer behavior, political opinions, and personal decisions. As early as 2016, Yuval Noah Harari warned in the Financial Times that companies like Google might signal the end of free will by knowing us better than we know ourselves. What sets the current moment apart is that, with the advancement of AI technologies, the methods of influence have become vastly more sophisticated, subtle, and pervasive. So, when a person acts based on these algorithmic suggestions, are they still exercising free will, or have they simply become passive responders to external stimuli? And if the latter is true, can they still be held morally responsible for their decisions? If someone chooses to follow a misleading recommendation from YouTube and ends up believing conspiracy theories, isn't that on them? They clicked, they watched, they chose. But others argue, if the system was designed to be addictive and manipulative, exploiting psychological vulnerabilities, then maybe the person didn't really choose freely. Maybe they were influenced in ways that undermined their autonomy. To grapple with these dilemmas, let's turn to four philosophical approaches to free will: libertarianism, compatibilism, hard incompatibilism, and revisionism. Each provides a unique lens for thinking about responsibility in the algorithmic age. Libertarians argue that true freedom requires indeterminism. That is, for you to be morally responsible, you must have been able to do otherwise. There is a folk-level expression, "You always have a choice," but the philosophical version is more complicated and sophisticated. Robert Kane, professor of philosophy and law at the University of Texas at Austin, introduces the concept of self-forming actions, SFAs. critical decisions made in moments of conflict, where the outcome isn't determined by prior causes. Imagine a person hesitating between telling the truth or lying under pressure. Those moments, if genuinely undetermined, can form the moral core of who we are. From this view, AI manipulation may undermine free will if it eliminates the possibility of SFAs. If an algorithm subtly pushes you towards certain choices and those choices feel automatic, then perhaps you're not freely acting. Compatibilists believe that free will and determinism can coexist. John Martin Fisher, professor of philosophy at the University of California, Riverside, argues that what matters isn't the ability to do otherwise, but whether the action is a product of your internal decision-making process, what he calls guidance control. Think of it like this: even if the paved road is fixed, as long as you're driving and not being dragged, you're still in control. For Fisher, responsibility doesn't require total freedom from influence, just that the agent is acting from their own reasons-responsive mechanisms. Applied to AI, this suggests that people can still be morally responsible, even when influenced by algorithms, as long as they reflect on those influences and act for their own reasons. Dirk Perboom, the Susan Lynn Sage Professor in Philosophy and Ethics at Cornell University, argues that neither determinism nor indeterminism allows for free will. In his view, if your actions are caused, you're not free. If they're random, you're not in control. Either way, traditional moral responsibility doesn't hold. Let's say an AI system slowly radicalizes someone via a stream of recommended content. Under Perboom's view, whether that person acted due to causal determinism, data-driven nudges, or randomness, they didn't act freely and thus shouldn't be blamed in the traditional sense. Instead, Perboom proposes a forward-looking approach, focus on changing behavior and protecting society, rather than assigning blame. Manuel Vargas, professor of philosophy at the University of California, San Diego, suggests we revise our everyday concept of free will. Our intuitive notions are messy and outdated, especially in a world influenced by neuroscience and AI. He argues we should reconstruct a version of free will that's both psychologically realistic and socially useful. For example, holding people accountable might be less about metaphysical freedom and more about maintaining social norms, encouraging better decision-making, and preventing harm. So, in the AI context, even if people are influenced, we might still hold them responsible, not because they were metaphysically free, but because doing so has practical consequences. Regardless of philosophical stance, several practical factors matter when evaluating moral responsibility. The first factor is awareness. Was the person aware they were being influenced? A savvy digital user might spot manipulation, but a child or vulnerable adult may not. Voluntariness is the second factor that should be taken into account. Could they reasonably opt out when your social life, job applications, or news all depend on the same platforms? It's hard to walk away. Capacity for critical thinking is another crucial factor. Are people educated enough to analyze and question algorithmic suggestions? Critical media literacy plays a key role. The last one is intent. Did the person actively seek to be influenced, for example, to lose weight using an app? Or were they passively exposed without consent? These factors show that responsibility is not binary. It's on a spectrum. Someone might be partially responsible or responsible in some contexts, but not others. As AI systems become more embedded in our daily lives, questions about autonomy and responsibility grow more urgent. Free will in the digital age is not an all-or-nothing concept. It's nuanced, context-dependent, and deeply tied to how we design, regulate, and interact with technology. AI literacy must go beyond coding boot camps or knowing how to use ChatGPT. It should include philosophical reflection, psychological insight, and ethical awareness. We need to teach people not just how to use AI, but how to understand its implications for who they are and how they live. Ultimately, the question isn't just whether we are free, but what kind of freedom we want to preserve in a world increasingly shaped by artificial minds. What about you? Do you still consider yourself a free thinker, someone who can critically evaluate information and make truly independent choices in this era of AI and social media? Or has your so-called critical thinking already been shaped by unseen hands, nudging you to see the world on their terms? Has your choice been quietly predicted or even predetermined by algorithms that know you better than you know yourself? Still, you're free to share your thoughts below. And if this made you think, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe.